I didn't see an old people's home till I left Africa and I went to Europe, till I went to the West. Many, many years ago, when I first came to or went to Europe, I, I was on public transport and everything, and I was getting on a bus, and I saw this old man, you know, getting onto the bus with his groceries, shopping, his little cart. He had like a cart and everything, and multiple bags and so forth. And I remember being blown away. Like, listen, guys, I can't express to you how crazy it was for me. You see, we don't see things like this in Africa. Like, it's not something that is really common to see, because he was struggling to get the bags on. And, I think somebody helped him, and he then got the bags on, and he was sitting on the bus. And then we went multiple stops, and then he came off at his stop and then got off the bus. The bus stopped, and, they put down the ramp, and he went, and then I remember I remember looking out of the window. I was fascinated, and I was looking out of the window at this guy as he put everything in his cart and started, hobbling along. He had like a little hunchback and everything, and going where he was going. And all I could think in my mind is that, where is his family? Like, he's clearly going somewhere. Like, doesn't the man have any family? Like, listen, guys, I don't see, for people who live in the UK, US, and so forth, things like this are normal. Like, it's not a weird thing for you to see these sort of things. For an African like me, who, I went to the village every year. I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up in Africa. That sort of image is not normal for us. Like, I'm talking about just where you're out in the wild and you're seeing an old person struggling like that. It's just not a normal sight. It's not a normal sight. And it's peaceful here, man. I'm doing this walk today. So I really looked at that and I felt so sorry for him. I actually wanted to get off the bus and help him get to where he was going. But then something in my mind said, you know what? He doesn't know me. You know what I'm saying? And this is a white man, a white old man. Some black guy is going to come up to you and say, can I help you get to your house? Not in the way, maybe in Africa, you don't want to be doing that. So I decided not to do it. And I felt so bad. It was weird, man. Why do I feel bad about somebody else's grandparents? But I did. And then I became more sensitive to that imagery, because I started looking at more and more people and noticing more and more people who were in that position. And I said, oh my God, this is like an epidemic. But when I started seeing things like that and understanding that, there is a business of elderly caring in the West. It's an actual industry where a lot of money is made building these luxury retirement homes where you send your old people to, you send your grandparents and your parents to. These people are in good health. Some of these guys are in perfectly good health. They're fine. They're just old. And they just need assistance, but they're okay. And you ship them off to these places, and these guys just go and live out their years and die there. Wow, man. Guys, I can't explain to you this, that my brain as an African doesn't compute. Let me tell you something about Africa for those of you who are not from my continent. There is such a thing known as elders. I'm sure that when you've seen all the stereotypical movies and films and so forth, you've heard about the term the elders. That's a real thing. It's not made up. In African culture, in African villages, see, I'm from the Edo tribe, Benin City, the Benin Kingdom. The elders are very important to the tribe. The older you get, you are seen as a repository of wisdom, guidance, experience, and intelligence, because you've navigated so many things. And one of the most important things and aspects of being an elder is the fact that African culture was an oral tradition, primarily. And therefore, you were the one who was going to carry the history of the tribe forward. You see what I'm saying? You were very important. Youngsters, you're just a youngster. If you're under the age of 50 in Africa, like, who the hell are you? In these days, back then, maybe under the age of 30. But in today's day and age, you're nothing. You're a baby. Being an elder means something. So I would go back, and the level of reverence that Africans have for the old is crazy. I don't know how many of you guys have been to Nigeria or Ghana or any of these sort of places. In South Africa, going to Uganda, Kenya, When you're old, you're big time. You want to get old because at that point, everybody's going to be looking after you. It's a duty to look after your elderly. Listen, let me tell you something, and this is real talk. If anybody found out that you sent your father and your mother and your grandparents to a home, it's an embarrassment. The only reason, and this is the only circumstances where something like that is acceptable, is severe illness. That is the time when you might send them to a hospital and, this person is on death's door. Like, they cannot be in the house because they need dialysis machines and all. And even then, the concept was foreign to me. So listen, forgive me if you're European and you're watching this. I didn't understand it and I still don't. I still don't. All right. So the fact that we have these elders and we have this culture, I then started looking at the West and saying that, okay, what is different between us that we have this reverence for the elderly and they don't? Then I started making sense to me, guys. Stay with me now. Stay with me. Capitalism. When you need to make money, you need to make that cash. Who are the best customers? The old people who are going to die or the kids? So if you're going to focus your culture on something in order to maximize profit, you're going to idolize youth. You're going to make youth be the most amazing thing. Listen, guys, you know that you're only young for like 25 years and you're only a viable young person from when you're like 12 till when you're like 30. That's like 18 years. For the rest of the time, you're already sliding towards the old age. Let me even dash you an extra 10 years, 28 years. If you live to 80, that means that most of your life, you're an old person. So everybody who's watching this video right now, get it through your skulls. You're going to be old much longer than you're young. And you're not all going to look like the Merc. I'm an old man who looks fresh. I look fresh. Do you know what age I am? I'm an elder already. And I'm looking fresh. You're not all going to be like me. You don't have my genetics. You don't have my genetics. I'm being real. So you better listen to what I'm saying. Like, this is real. Now, because you've got a capitalist structure and you need to make money, you're going to idolize youth and you're going to turn your society into one that is obsessed with staying young, obsessed with looking young, obsessed with having surgeries, dressing, getting on social media to look like kids, to look like teenagers, to stay forever young. What does that mean? We're all going to die. It's a blessing to get old. And that's what Africans understood. We're getting it twisted now. I'm going to get to that because we're getting corrupted. We're getting corrupted. It's a blessing to get old, man. I look at old people, I have nothing but respect for these guys. Well, it depends, but you know what I'm saying. How can you be a culture that every commercial I see, every ad I see, every film I watch, every music song that comes out is all geared towards pre-teens or teenagers, people under the age of 25. Your primary target audience is 18 to 25. What is that? What is that? And you're confused why your society is collapsing? When you're handing it over to people who have no experience, who've never seen anything, and they're growing up to be adult babies? It's not rocket science, people. And Africa, you've absorbed this nonsense. We've absorbed this nonsense, so we're turning into a hybrid version. Let's turn this down a little. A hybrid version of the same thing. Guys, I'm keeping it real. That's the reason why you come to the Merc channel. It's the blueprint. It's the blueprint, guys. Stay with me. So, you look at that sort of situation, right? And I said, okay, that's one reason. You want to make money. The other reason is the erosion of responsibility. You see, I looked at the West and I said, when I spent time in America and the UK and everything, I started realizing that, you know what? There is this absolving of responsibility that has become commonplace in this society, whereby it's everybody else's fault but yours. It's everybody else's responsibility but yours. You want the government to do everything for you. Let me explain something to you. Like in Africa, because our governments are so trash, you can't rely on the government for anything. Because our infrastructure is so rubbish, you can't rely on the infrastructure to look after your family. So by default, you have to look after your elderly, or otherwise they're going to die. They're going to die. So you better keep it correct. That's the problem. When you've got a system where the government has taken over, has taken so much power from the individual, has taken so much power from you, and so much control over everything that goes on, you end up in a situation that just take my family because I don't want to have to deal with it. So you see these people running around and you say, oh, where's your father or your mother? He's in a home. I go and visit him once a month or twice a month. What? How are you living? Where's your grandparents in a home? The hell? And the guys who are saying this are just living their lives, enjoying, not thinking that you do realize that this is where you're headed. Because you've now created a culture where it's normal to get sent away when you're 70. You've created a culture where that's normal. These places are like prisons, man, luxury prisons. I don't care what anybody tells me. You're not putting me in a home. Send me to the wilderness. I'll be in the woods with a walking stick, like Charlton Heston in Ten Commandments. Put me in the woods. They'll be having sightings of the Merc in the woods. Sightings. Like, oh, I think we saw an old man with a stick and a bald head. It was me. You ain't putting me in a home. I can tell you that. Even looking at raising children and bringing the wisdom is now been destroyed in the West because you've abdicated that responsibility to the media, as opposed to in African culture, that responsibility was to the elders. So now, the way that the West understand what their history is from what they're told by a centralized force. Obviously, that is changing now with social media and so forth. That is actually changing dramatically. But that's the way it's been for generations of the government and the educational system, and everybody who decides what the curriculum is are the ones that tell you what your history is, what you should know, what you should learn. In African history, it wasn't like that. When an elder is talking to you, he's talking to you based on the elders, the ancestors, who've passed down the information for generations, uncorrupted. There's nobody coming to infiltrate that. When colonization came, they destroyed all of that. They destroyed it. Now we're reading from their own history books. Now we're reading from their own culture. Now we're reading for their own curriculum. Now we've forgotten how important the elders and aging is. We've forgotten the importance of the elders. Africans, what are we doing? Respect your elders. And to Europe and all these Western folks, guys, let me ask you a question. Everything you have, who made it possible? All the stuff that you're enjoying, who made it possible? All this society and empire that you have, who made it possible? You see, for us, as Africans, respecting Western elders, we shouldn't actually be respecting them because they are the ones who colonized us. So the person that I was even feeling sorry for on the bus, that guy was probably part of the people who were supporting colonialism and all of that sort of stuff. You enjoyed the colonialism when they were chopping Nigeria. When you were younger, if you saw an old African, would you have helped him? Probably not, but I'm not like you. I see people laughing at old people. The old people are walking on, oh, look at that old. You don't want to have them involved in anything. When it comes to marketing and promotion, nothing is promoted towards them. Nothing is geared towards them. Everything is young, youth. And you make them feel depressed, feel like they're already dead men, dead women walking. I think it is very important for us to appreciate those that came before. I think it's very important for us to have respect for those who made sacrifices for us to be where we are. The next time after you finish watching this video that you see an old person on a bus, on a train, I want you to do something. I want you to walk up to that old person and just say thank you. Say thank you and say we appreciate you, we see you. If you're young, if you're older, you don't have to say that because you're among, we are among. I'm an old man, I don't need to say that to other old folks. If you're a youngster, that will really touch their heart. The next time you see an 80-year-old, 70-something-year-old person, and you're under the age of 25, go up to them and say thank you for your service to my society. Thank you for your service to humanity. Just say thank you. You'll put a smile on their face. Because a lot of these people don't feel seen. They feel like the world has forgotten about them. The world has moved on and they feel like they're already dead. I've seen this.